I think it would be churlish not to acknowledge that the council has made some real improvements from this time last year, especially with some of the problems around the leadership of the authority. It does feel a lot more stable than it did a year ago. Though I have to say, I think that work is, as picked up in the CAA, early days and is still really fragile. So for me, acknowledge that there has been some progress made, but it's not been made fast enough, and I don't think that it's actually robust enough so far.
What does that mean, not robust enough?
It means that it's not ingrained into the organisation. It means that with so many interim officers at a high level in the organisation, and with so much outside support, that when they move on, when the outside support is taken away, I'm not convinced that everything will remain standing, that it, a bit like putting scaffolding around a house, take it away, will the house collapse in on itself? I'm not sure that we're at the level yet where you can take the scaffolding away.
So you're saying that you're impressed with the people like Joe Olsen coming on board, or Sean Clark, but you want to see far more permanent corporate directors in order to create a much safer foundation? I
want to see more permanent corporate directors, and I want to see 6 months to 9 months of real sustained progress. We haven't seen that yet, and I think that is reflected in the CAA. There's lots of promising stuff there, but there's lots of stuff that's still really weak. They look at the procurement function, say that isn't weak. They say the council isn't delivering value for money for residents, and that's crucial. They also pick up on the problems around cohesion within the borough, the lack of political leadership to overcome those cohesion problems, and really for me quite frightening, they pick up on just how poor levels of education still are in the borough. Now that's a huge task and something they've really got to get to grips with.
But some people might accuse that this is a borough that's going through huge transition, and some would say that Labour could be guilty. Immediately when the report came out, press release comes out, and you're referring immediately to the 2 red flags. Could you be accused of doing down the borough?
Well, I think in what I've just said to you, I'm acknowledging that there has been some real progress made. It'd be churlish not to acknowledge that. It's not a matter of doing the borough down, it's trying to recognise where there are failings and trying to put those failings right. And that's why I always welcome inspections such as the CAA. And one of the difficulties, I think, with the approach that the administration here has to these reports is they try to ignore some of the poor messages and put the best spin on it they can. Really you need to take the message that's there as something that's supposed to be helping you. And the messages, especially around primary education, that say we only have 1 outstanding primary school in the borough, too few good primary schools, is something that should be a wake-up call and something to go to work on, not something to try and gloss over by saying, well, GCSE results were the best in 21 years and that's all that we're interested in. It's just not goodness.
They're in the heart of Averley.
Yep.
I think came second in the key stage 2 results. Should really, what you're saying, that a school like that should be held up as a beacon and say, what can we learn from that school?
Absolutely, that's exactly what we should be doing. Overall, key stage 2 results worse than last year. Key stage 1 results have got worse year on year for the last couple of years. There are good examples. Let's look at those examples. What are those people doing right, and what can the rest of us learn from?
Leadership from councillors in respect to community cohesion. What does that mean?
I think what it means is councillors being more visible in their communities, acting as community leaders, and that means talking to people more than they currently do, listening to people's concerns and trying to act on those concerns. One of the things that's picked up quite clearly in the report is just how few people here living in Thurrock feel they can influence decisions that are being made. Politicians of all parties need to respond to that. They need to give voice to people's concerns, and sometimes concerns that people have will be really uncomfortable, and we've got to find a way of listening to what people are saying in the language that people talk, without falling into the trap of every time somebody says something unpalatable of just dismissing them as a nasty little racist and just moving on. We need to tackle that head on when it's wrong, but we can't fall into some kind of politically correct trap of just dismissing people as being racist when they have concerns about the pace of change within the borough.
Some people might also say that regarding events, so to speak, is that as we in the 16 months that we've been around, is that a lot of events to do with community cohesion and getting the community together keep happening between the hours of 9 to 5.
I think that's right. You know, I was at a really good event probably 6 weeks ago, a council-sponsored event. It was held from, I think it was 9:30 to 2:30, at a time when most people can't come and join in. You know, we need to be out there of an evening, we need to be out there of a weekend. The council needs to start putting those things, those kind of events on of a weekend when people who are working all through the week can come and take part.
Although again, looking at the other end, is if I was a council officer, so to speak, I would say, right,
if that's what it takes to ensure that we actually reach out to people and are talking to the man and woman in the street, rather than the same group of people coming to event after event after event, then yeah, that's what we'll have to do.
Okay, we've mentioned councillors individually, we've mentioned officers individually, but the report, what era that's harking from, still makes specific reference to the fragile relationship to officers and members. Is that valid today in December?
Yes, it is. I think it is. I think progress has been made. It's a point I've made before, though, Michael. I think that progress is fragile.
A different question, sorry. Of course, some might say, who judges the judges? You know, going back to the community cohesion for a second. The Youth and Connection Service do fantastic work, and they have a series. We've followed it on our site. Great work with the rappers and the MC work,
Absolutely.
and that is a naturally organic way of young black men and women, and young white men and women, joining in the culture. And it's naturally, it's organic, and they're doing great strides, and they're keeping a lot of kids off the streets. But there is absolutely no mention of that. So, who judges the
Area
judges?
assessment replaces the old comprehensive performance assessment, which a lot of authorities saw as being too blunt a tool and too heavy-handed. So there's a lot of work gone in, I believe, to getting the area assessments together. It is a lighter touch inspection, and that is responding to a lot of the complaints that local authorities had about the old process. So in a way, this is a process that's been led by local authorities themselves.
So we're coming up to Christmas, John. We've had this report in. What are you hoping? What are you hoping for in Thurrock Council in 2010?
I'm hoping that the signs of progress that are there are continued through 2010, and that we end up at the end of the year with the report that comes out this time next year saying that we're not 2, that we're 3, that progress has now been sustained, and that we've actually seen some improvement in services on the ground, because that's what we're not seeing at the moment.